Imagine you've just sat down to eat. Not sushi, not a grilled salmon, not your Kraft IPA with a slice of lime. No, you're staring at a slab of salted herring so stiff it could double as roof shingles, and next to it, a mug of ale that tastes like someone wrung out a damp loaf of bread. Congratulations, you're dining like a medieval peasant. Forget your fridge, your tap water, your late-night DoorDash. In the dark ages, food didn't expire, it rotted, it fermented, it killed. People, your options weren't gluten-free or extra spicy. They were eat this crust of moldy rye, or starve. But then came the unlikely heroes, salted fish and ale, bland, briny, and boozy. They didn't just feed you, they kept you alive. So buckle up, because before refrigeration, before public health, before anyone invented the sandwich, your entire survival came down to rotten fish and warm beer. 1. The rotten menu of the Dark Ages. You've seen medieval feasts in movies. Long tables, golden goblets, roast pigs with apples in their mouths. But here's the truth. That wasn't you. That was the king, maybe a duke, maybe his least favorite cousin. You're a peasant. And your menu looks more like prison food than a banquet. Breakfast is yesterday's black bread, so hard it could knock out a burglar. Lunch, then pottage, a watery stew of beans, barley, and maybe an onion if you're lucky. Dinner, more bread, more pottage. If it's a holiday, you might get bacon fat stirred in. Yum, meat was a rare event. Not rare as in bloody steak, rare as in once or twice a year. And when it did show up, it was usually scraps, organs, hooves, or whatever fell off the butcher's table. Fresh vegetables existed, but only when they grew in season. That means no tomatoes, no potatoes, no corn. Those came centuries later from the New World. A medieval salad was mostly cabbage, followed by more cabbage and fruit. Don't even think about it. Maybe some apples or pears in the fall. The rest of the year, you could gnaw on dry plums that tasted like sadness. Hunger never really left. Even in good years, you were always one bad harvest away from famine. In bad years, entire villages starved. And when food did make it to your bowl, it wasn't just bland, it was dangerous. We'll get to that part later. For now, just picture this. You're staring at a wooden bowl filled with grayish mush, chewing bread that breaks teeth, knowing tomorrow's meal will look exactly the same. Bon appetite, but don't get too comfortable, because even this sorry diet had one more problem. Food didn't stay edible for long. 2. Why fresh food was basically a myth. In your world, milk lasts a week, and you can freeze chicken for months. In the Dark Ages, milk lasted about half a morning. Meat, hours. By dinner time, that pig carcass was already buzzing with flies. There was no fridge, no freezer, not even an icebox unless you lived near a mountain and had servants to drag ice into a cellar. Food spoiled fast. In summer, it spoiled instantly. Water wasn't any safer. Wells mixed with animal waste. Rivers doubled as toilets. And rain barrels grew slimy green films. Drink the wrong sip, and congratulations, you've just bought yourself a week of dysentery. That's where preservation came in. Drying and smoking helped, but nothing worked like salt. Salt slowed decay, killed bacteria, and turned food that would have lasted hours into something you could eat months later. It didn't taste great, but it didn't kill you. That was good enough. Salt was so valuable that entire towns were built around it. Soldiers were sometimes paid in salt rations. It's where the word salary comes from, and if you didn't have access to it, you were out of luck. Your winter food supply turned into a maggot factory. People got creative, of course. They pickled vegetables, they fermented milk into cheese, they turned grapes into wine and barley into ale. In other words, they found ways to let food rot on purpose, just enough to make it edible, but not enough to make it lethal, usually. So while you wander into your modern grocery store and complain about best before labels, remember, in the Dark Ages, everything was already past its best. You didn't eat food for flavor, you ate it before it killed you. And the undisputed champion of this survival game, 1 slippery, smelly, salty hero, 3 salted fish, the briny miracle. Picture yourself living inland, far from the sea. Fresh fish, forget it by the time it reached you. It was basically a science experiment, unless, of course, it was packed in salt. Salted herring and cod became medieval lifelines. They were cheap, easy to ship, and lasted for months. Coastal fishermen hauled in catches by the ton, and merchants turned them into a booming trade. By the 12th century, entire economies, like the Hanseatic League, revolved around barrels of fish. Wars were fought over fishing grounds, kingdoms taxed it, and peasants, they just ate it over and over. For years, it wasn't glamorous. Salted fish was tough, rubbery, and so salty it could chap your lips. Eating it was less fine dining and more annoying on the sea itself, but it kept you alive when everything else failed. In monasteries, fish became a staple for fasting days. In cities, fishmongers sold barrels to anyone with a few coins. Armies marched on salted cod. Sailors practically lived on it. It was, in short, the medieval protein bar. Ugly, portable, indestructible. Did it taste good? No. Imagine licking the planks of a fishing boat, but when your other options were spoiled meat, moldy bread, or nothing at all, salted fish looked like salvation. So yes, it was boring. Yes, it was monotonous, but it was reliable, and in the Dark Ages, reliable food was a miracle. Even if it meant you reeked of brine morning, noon, and night. Of course, relying on salted fish had its limits, because even when it was safe, your body was still starving for variety. And when you paired it with gallons of ale, you're balanced. Diet became a slow-motion disaster. For ale, your liquid lifeboat. Water is life, unless you're living in the Middle Ages. Then, water is more like a death lottery. Take a sip from the village well and you're not quenching your thirst. You're rolling dice with dysentery, cholera, or some parasite that will make your stomach twist like a pretzel. Rivers, forget it, they doubled as open sewers, laundromats, and sometimes public morgues. So what do you drink instead? Ale. Weak, cloudy, low-alcohol ale. Think of it as liquid bread. It wasn't about getting tipsy, it was about not dying of thirst. Kids drank it, pregnant women drank it, monks practically bathed in it. If you lived in the Dark Ages, your average daily intake of beer could be up to a gallon, and no, that wasn't considered alcoholism, that was just hydration. Brewing ale was part of daily life. Women often ran small-scale brewing operations. At home, monks perfected recipes inside monasteries, turning brewing into both science and business. But don't picture golden pints with foamy heads. Ale back then was cloudy, sour, and sometimes thick enough to chew. It spoiled quickly, too. If you don't drink it fast, it turns into vinegar. Ale was low alcohol on purpose, too much booze and you couldn't work the fields, so most batches were just strong enough to keep germs at bay, but weak enough that you could drink them all day. Imagine sending your child to school with a thermos of beer and no one batting an eye. That was completely normal. Of course, normal came with side effects, chronic dehydration, headaches, and a culture where everyone was at least a little buzzed most of the time. And yet, it worked. Ale didn't kill you the way water did. It kept you alive. But survival wasn't only about safety. Food was spiritual too, and that meant the church had something to say about what landed in your cup, and especially on your plate. 5. Banquets, fasts, and fishy faith. In medieval Europe, the church wasn't just your spiritual guide, it was also your meal planner. Over 100 days of the year were designated as fasting days. That meant no meat, no dairy, and no eggs, which left you with one holy loophole: fish, and not just fresh fish, either. For inland peasants, fish usually meant salted, dried, or smoked herring. Imagine choking down the same briny slab, week after week, because heaven said so. Variety was not part of God's plan for your dinner plate. But fasting wasn't just for peasants. Nobles had to follow the rules too, though they did it with more flair. Picture a banquet table covered with elaborate fish dishes, sturgeon, lamprey, eel pies, sometimes dyed or sculpted into bizarre shapes. It was piety with a side of showmanship if you were rich. Fasting turned into an excuse to flaunt wealth by serving exotic seafood shipped hundreds of miles inland. Of course, it often arrived half-rotten, but hey, it looked impressive. Monasteries turned this religious demand into an industry. Monks farmed fish in artificial ponds, brewed ale in giant vats, and sold both to the surrounding towns. Fasting created an economy, and salted fish became not just a food, but a spiritual commodity. Eating it wasn't just about filling your stomach, it was about proving your devotion. Still, for the poor, religion didn't make meals more meaningful, it just made them repetitive. Day after day of salted herring meant your faith smelled suspiciously like low tide. And just when you thought religion had made things strict enough, money stepped in, because salt wasn't just holy, it was political. 6. The economics of salt. White gold. Salt might be the most boring mineral on your table today. Sprinkle it on fries, forget about it. But in the dark ages, salt was wealth, salt was power, salt was survival. Why? Because without it, your food rotted before you could eat it. Salt turned fish, meat, and even butter into something that could last the winter. Without salt, famine wasn't just possible, it was inevitable. That made it one of the most valuable resources in Europe. Wars were fought over salt mines. Cities grew rich controlling trade routes. The French crown built its fortune on a hated salt tax called the gabelle. It was so despised that centuries later, it helped fuel the French Revolution. Meanwhile, ordinary people scraped together coins just to buy a handful. If you couldn't afford it, you risked starvation. Smuggling became common. Peasants hauled contraband salt across borders in sacks, hoping to avoid brutal punishments if caught. Forget gold bars. In this world, a sack of salt was like carrying treasure, and rulers knew it. Controlling salt meant controlling people. It wasn't just a seasoning, it was a political weapon. Whoever owned the salt supply held the keys to survival. So while you complain about rising grocery prices, remember this: in medieval Europe, salt could bankrupt you, start wars, and decide whether your family lived through the winter. No wonder they called it white gold. And if salt had that much power, just imagine the chaos waiting in the ale houses where people actually consumed it all. 7. Ale houses, taverns, and trouble. You've had a long day in the fields. Your back aches, your boots are full of mud, and your dinner is, surprise, more bread and pottage. But there's one place where life feels less miserable: the ale house. Medieval taverns weren't glamorous. Think cramped wooden rooms, sticky floors, and air thick with smoke from too many torches, but they were alive. This was where the gossip flowed as freely as the ale. Farmers, travelers, merchants, even the occasional monk, everyone ended up shoulder to shoulder at the long benches. Ale houses were the medieval version of a social network. News spread here faster than any messenger. You heard who died, who married, who was caught stealing turnips. You might even play dice or cards. Gambling was practically a national pastime. Of course, too much ale always led to trouble. Fights broke out constantly. Sometimes it was over money, sometimes over insults, sometimes because two men reached for the same mug at the same time. Daggers were drawn, swords occasionally flashed. Imagine your local Starbucks turning into a WWE match at closing time. Authorities tried to keep order. Laws regulated how much ale could be sold, who could sell it, and even when taverns could open. But the truth was simple: people needed their liquid bread. Shut down the taverns, and you had riots. Ale houses also doubled as inns, meaning travelers sometimes found themselves bunking next to drunk strangers or thieves eyeing their coin purses. Privacy didn't exist, neither did personal hygiene. You could leave an ale house with new friends or without your shoes. Still, taverns were irresistible. They were warm, noisy, and full of life in a world that was otherwise cold and repetitive. They were your third place. But instead of Wi-Fi and lattes, you got watered-down ale and the occasional brawl. Cozy, chaotic, and always just a little bit sticky. But the real danger wasn't just what happened in taverns. It was what your diet was doing to you behind the scenes. 8. When your diet tried to kill you anyway, salted fish and ale kept you alive. But they didn't keep you healthy. Your diet was basically a revolving door of bread, beer, and brined fish, which sounds filling, until you realize it was slowly dismantling your body. Without fruits or fresh vegetables, you got almost no vitamin C. That meant scurvy, not just for sailors, on land too. Your gums bled, your teeth loosened, cuts refused to heal. You were rotting from the inside out. Salt-heavy diets weren't much better. Sure, salt preserves your fish, but it also wrecked your kidneys and raised blood pressure to the point where heart problems were a family tradition. Add in spoiled grains, and you risk ergot poisoning. That's when rye bread turned into a psychedelic death trip. Hallucinations, convulsions, fingers and toes turning black and falling off. People thought they were cursed by witches, when really they'd just eaten Tuesday's loaf. Parasites were also common guests at the dinner table. Undercooked fish carried tapeworms long enough to stretch through your intestines. Grain stores often crawled with weevils, and if famine struck, things got worse. Some winters, you ate bark stripped from trees, wheats boiled into soup, or famine bread made with ground-up straw and sawdust. It filled your stomach but starved your body. Even when you survived, survival came with a timer. Malnutrition stunted growth, weakened immune systems, and left whole communities fragile against the next plague or war. You weren't eating to thrive, you were eating to delay the inevitable. Salted fish and ale were lifelines, yes, but they were lifelines fraying at both ends. They saved you today, while quietly plotting your death tomorrow. And yet, in one of history's cruel ironies, these grim staples didn't just keep you alive, they reshaped entire cultures. 9. From survival to obsession somehow. Salted fish and ale grew from desperate survival tools into the backbone of European society. Trade routes exploded with barrels of herring. The Hanseatic League, a powerful medieval trade confederation, built its fortune on the fish trade, linking ports from the Baltic to the North Sea. Salt itself became white gold, and whoever controlled it could choke entire regions into submission. Ale wasn't far behind. Brewing became a legal requirement in many towns, ensuring no one ever went without their daily drink. Local governments regulated quality, monasteries perfected recipes, and taverns turned into economic engines as much as community hubs. Ale was no longer just a drink, it was infrastructure. Festivals revolved around fish harvests, markets revolved around salted barrels, even politics was lubricated by ale deals struck over tankards, alliances toasted with mugs. What began as grim necessity evolved into cultural identity. And here's the twist: by the late Middle Ages, as diets slowly expanded with new foods from abroad, fish and ale shifted from lifelines to traditions. People didn't just eat them because they had to, they ate them because they always had. Centuries of survival hardened into ritual. Today, you complain about soggy fish and chips or cheap beer at a bar, but in the Dark Ages, that exact combo kept your ancestors alive. Barely, it was survival disguised as a meal, and without it, Europe's story might have ended in famine centuries earlier. So the next time you raise a pint, or push aside an oversalted fillet, take a moment. You're looking at two of history's most unlikely heroes, smelly, briny, and sticky, but lifesavers all the same. Enjoyed this dive into the Dark Ages? Hit like and subscribe for more forgotten history. Share this with a friend and stick around because the past still has secrets to spill.